good luck to all the top players in the World Cube Association.
Hey, good luck to Joe Schmo. I hope you have a great competition at the next competition you go to. Hopefully
Joe
this week. We'll see you this
Schmo.
week.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Overinspected Podcast, the greatest speedkeeping podcast in the world, in the universe, in the galaxy, the nebula, under the sun. We are the best podcast in the world, guys. Guys, welcome back.
Let's go. Another great podcast episode. For
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw under the title where you went to go click this episode, but there has been some juicy information that has just happened, and we're not usually a news segment, but here's the news, guys. Apparently, Yiheng Wang from China, the 8-year-old from China, had a huge world record fail with a ton of mishaps that happened at the most recent Vietnam competition. So before we even talk about all the speculation, all the questions, all the opinions, the conversations, we got to tell you guys what happened. So Manu, Carrie, are you guys listening? I have a lot of information to share.
I am listening.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
all ears.
I know there's a lot of stuff behind this, so yes, let's get to the juicy tidbits. Chai, lay it on us.
Yeah, I'm going to waste no time, so guys pay attention. So first things first, you guys got to understand, I want to paint the canvas for you. So 3x3 at the competition for round 1 starts at 6 p.m. This is also going to matter later because FMC has a starting time of 7 p.m., which is coinciding halfway through 3x3.
Wait, so one question. So 6 p.m., is that local time? Or is that hour?
It'll be local time for me. But for anyone listening, all you need to know is the hour difference, essentially.
Okay.
So if you hear 6 p.m., just think of it as whoever's listening's time 6 p.m., right?
But I'm just curious, for Vietnam time, that would be something like, what, like 10 a.m. the next day?
Yeah, I think
that sounds about right.
Or
Roughly.
in the morning, yeah.
Okay, so the viewers can do their own comparisons.
Okay, it is in the morning.
Right.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
one of the competitors at the competition, the Hong Kong competitor Andy Mok, who's pretty well-renowned, famous cuber, he was a competitor there, and around 6:30 p.m. he reports that Yiheng has broken the world record with a 4.75 average. Of course, this was also uploaded to WCA Live. However, at the same moment, a rumor starts going around that the second solve, guys, was actually a misscramble. And then what proceeds to happen, really not so long after this, guys, like this is like 30 minutes after the round started, Yiheng's results were taken off of WCA Live. No one knows what happened, right? They heard that there's a misscramble, and you don't see the results anymore.
Wait, so
not so long after.
So I'm gonna ask again. So
yeah,
the fact that the second scramble was a misscramble, that was originally a rumor. It was not known that this was the case. Like no one knew it was the case. Like, or maybe the delegates knew, but they didn't like disperse it out to the.
I think it might have come from Andy, but I don't want to confirm that part because there was a lot of people commenting on this.
Right.
But essentially, there was a rumor that the second solve was a misscrambled attempt.
Interesting.
Right. So Yiheng's results were taken off of WCA Live, and at this point, guys, I was streaming on Twitch.tv, and I was keeping track of this, and I was like on the case. I was playing detective, and then I was on WCA Live. I proceed to see that 3x3 is closed. It's not even open. Turns out they deleted the entire round.
Wow.
And yeah, they deleted the entire round, and no one knows what's happening. People start realizing that there are absolutely no results. And then slowly but surely, around the time FMC starts around 7 p.m., data entry starts resubmitting all competitor results. But it was going extremely slow. If you excluded Yiheng's results from the upload, every competitor was uploaded. The last competitor was uploaded around 4 hours later.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah, you have to really think about, like, why did it take so long for those results to upload, especially the last competitor, excluding Yiheng. Now, during these pauses, the normal round of FMC actually was started. It was more or less confirmed that Andy himself was actually competing in FMC too. So because Andy was the only credible source at the competition, we did not hear any information during his attempt at FMC.
It's an information blackout.
It was so stressful. So from 7 to 8 p.m., we were all speculating, what the heck is happening?
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's when you were on Twitch and I was like in the chat for a little bit. You're like, I remember you said something like, something's gonna happen at 8:20. Like, right now we're in the dark, but at some point some information has to come through.
Yeah, some information has to come out because all the FMC competitors are slated to finish competing, right? So this gets even crazier. So the next event after FMC is 4x4. And 4x4 begins while 3x3 is still being input.
Right, yeah.
And this includes Yiheng. So, what we also saw is when everyone was keeping track of the 3x3 results, there was a ton of misentries. So from the outside looking in, it kind of looked like the data entry table was doing a ton of mistakes. They're feeling extremely rushed to maybe bring it out, or stressed, or maybe under pressure.
Wait, so
I doubt that.
What do you mean by
rushed.
misentries? Like, so they were like, let's say competitor A got, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 in round one. Everything got deleted, and then competitor A, when they re-uploaded everything, suddenly got like 6, 7, 8, something completely different.
So not a lot of people have the original times from the original round when it was open.
Right. Yeah.
But there was some cross-referencing using WCA profiles, and there were a couple competitors. For example, there was a French delegate that was present at the competition that had a result of like 1 minute average on 3x3, whereas they averaged like 10. So they definitely had multiple competitors worth of misentries on that level. Yeah.
Wow.
So they were at some capacity, they were making mistakes, and I don't think they were feeling rushed because they took so goddamn long to upload those results. It was actually infuriating. Just knowing how long it takes to do data entry, right?
Yeah.
So what was interesting afterwards is FMC during this time was not being uploaded to WCA Live. And this was after FMC was over. And then you have to start asking yourself, why is FMC not being uploaded during this time? Because FMC is extremely simple to take care of.
Yeah, very
especially if 3x3 is not having any uploads, there's almost no excuse to not have a FMC upload. So that was interesting to me because that was like the first sign of something being strange on a different incident scale. Like, I was starting to ask the question, did people even compete in FMC? Like, was that actually something that was happening?
Wow.
Like, it was just so many things to speculate, right? And then afterwards, after Andy completed his attempt, he did later report that Yiheng has not attempted his extra solve that he was slated to have. And at that point, 3x3 was already scheduled to be over. Even more bizarre, this is after Andy's post. 4x4 is not only open, but Yiheng actually competes in 4x4, and his 4x4 results are uploaded. And this is like pretty quick. Like, they're uploading the results pretty quick after the competitor finishes competing.
So that's even before the 3x3 result, like before his 3x3 result gets up. So he competes. So the timeline is he competes in 3x3. He, sometime later, he competes in 4x4. His 4x4 are uploaded, and then 3x3, we don't know.
Correct. And 3x3 at that point is not even done uploading the last competitor result. They took so long filling out everyone. It was incredibly strange. And then they take lunch with no update. This is just radio silence. Radio silence, and then out of nowhere, Andy's friend is like, Yiheng got a 7 to 8 second single on his extra attempt, which leads to the unceremonial conclusion of the world record drama.
It's not a
world record. Yeah, he got a 6:21 as the official time, and that was confirmed later. It is on WCA Live. It will be in his profile pretty soon, and he missed a world record off of something that might have been completely out of his control. If I didn't explain the reason why he got an extra, if you didn't catch all that, the reason that he got an extra was because he was served a miss scramble. So that is the entire timeline, and that entire timeline in real time took about 4.5 hours. 4.5 hours did Yiheng compete, get the world record, confirm a miss scramble, compete in 4x4, upload result to 4x4, take lunch, during lunch compete in the extra solve, and then his average is done. Of course, they close the round, they get ready for round 2.
Yeah, and he lost the world record.
insane. He needed a 5'11 or better, if I'm not mistaken, to get the world record, which was completely possible for him. But
I mean,
you know,
so what's crazy also is that we were just talking about Yiheng also, very very recently, and it's crazy that it's crazy, like, 2 weeks back to back, that crazy stuff with him has happened. And I think you're right. For most other competitors, like, if you see like, oh, you need 5'11, it's like, okay, it might be doable, but might be hard, right? But the guy actually got 491 official average last week. So
I know, yeah.
yeah,
That might be his like global average.
yeah, so he has the chops.
he does. Also, I found out a
Yeah.
little tidbit on his last average in round 3. If he got his best solve on solve number 5, his very last solve of the day, he would have tied the world record, 4.86.
Wow, we went on a 3-way tie.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah,
but he did it.
a 3-way tie. That would have been really fun. Like 3 people from 3 different continents all
Yeah,
showing the
wow.
record. That would be like almost a little too
Yeah,
perfect.
and that would have been amazing redemption,
well-
right? Like for a bungled world record by something that was out of his control, to get the world record in finals, and not only that, but to tie 2 of some of the greatest speed cubers to ever exist.
Yeah, Carrie, you had something to say?
Oh, one thing I was gonna say is that the 5th time of that average was like a 7 something, and I heard people talking about how, like, with a lot of these world records, if it's already locked in that the average is going to be like world record, sometimes people just chill and don't try that hard on the last solve because it doesn't matter. And so, like, if he gets a 7, it's because he isn't trying that hard. But if he had known that the 5th time might actually matter because he has to redo the second one, then it would maybe make him focus on that. So there's an argument to be made that, like, the fact that the order of order of doing the solves is now like not the same. It's also like not the same kind of competition setting.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I'm trying to remember, and by the way, guys, Kerry is not referring to the last average that Yiheng had in the competition. It was round 1. So the round 1, the 5th solve Kerry used, it was like a 7, right? Because he guaranteed the world
is this
record
not
on
the-
solve 4, right?
Yeah, I heard something like that too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He guaranteed on 4, and then got a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I should look at what the actual records are.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how it was, and that's definitely another lesson in making every solve count. Like, and obviously,
Yeah,
you probably, I don't know if it was a lot of pressure, but that solve didn't matter at the time, but it clearly did. Just a really unfortunate situation. But you know what's even crazier about this whole story? Was that it took so long to resolve. For what? For why? This type of incident has happened so many times.
Yeah,
We just mentioned this on Legendary World Records episode 23.
23? Yeah.
We just mentioned this. And I had episode 14, my personal delegate drama.
Yeah.
Guys, this has happened so many times. But why is this incident different? Why are we spending a podcast episode talking about this? There are some questions, guys, and I want to ask you guys these questions open-ended and tell me your thoughts. First, my question for you guys is, was the initial WCA live result, the one with the world record, regarding Yiheng's second solve of 4.76 seconds, actually already accounting for an E1 due to a misscramble? The reason why I bring up this question is because there's a possibility that this is the reason of all the false rumors regarding misscrambles all over the internet, all over Cubix's friends, all over private Discord servers.
Wait. I don't quite understand. Wait, so you're saying that the 476 that was uploaded to WCA Live, that everyone saw as the world record, that had already had an E1 in there? Like that there were 6 solves that were 6 solves that were done, 6 solves that were attempted at least. And then of those six, one of those was also misscrambled. So then he had to do the 7th solve, which ended up being, I guess, E2, and then that put together came into the final average.
Correct. The reason why I bring up this question is because there is a procedure for world records. It is important because it is important for us to check world record scrambles, right? You know, it's widely known that when you submit a world record time, it'll definitely stir the pot. It'll stir the cubing community with the advent of internet, with the notifications, with all the pings, the WCA Twitter bot. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to know instantly. And everyone knows when world records are accidentally typed in. That happens all the time.
Yes.
So, this means that if the second solve was the original scramble, but misscrambled, that means the delegate did not verify the world record before the results were uploaded. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Okay, so you tell me from a delegate perspective, right? The world record happens. So in this situation, is the protocol to verify the scrambles first, then sign off on it, make sure everything is okay, then send it to data entry, or is it sent to data entry while it's like a parallel process? Like send it to data entry while the confirmation is happening.
Generally speaking, the best practice to do is to verify in the moment, especially because the camera footage is all new. You need to do the world record submission form. You need to take a picture of the competitor. You need to have a picture of the scorecard. All that stuff, like if you wait like an hour or two to get to it, you're going to forget about it, right? So that's stuff that is all going to stop a competition. We experienced that on Bass 29 like firsthand, and I mentioned Bass 29 so many times because on this podcast specifically, that's a point of reference for our podcast listeners. But this has happened numerous times across the board. That's not the only world record that we've experienced. This is just a one that everyone knows. So, if the original second scramble was misscrambled, but not checked, and it was uploaded to WCA Live, this could be the fault of the data entry team, or it could be the fault of the delegate. But there's no way to know this without some further information.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's our place to like go and push rumors or things that we're not confident about, but I think it is interesting that like we live in the day where records like people know when a record happens because there are just so many sources saying like, oh, I was at this competition, I saw a world record, or like there's like literally a bot that sits on WCA Live and just checks and see when new world records happen, and when new CRs happen. I think it reports for NRs too. I think I follow that bot. So and you can like follow it and put notifications on, so you're instantly notified when it sees a potential world record. Obviously, like there are caveats, misentries, and things like that. They say all that stuff, but I think it's interesting that we live in the day and age where that is like because of that we know when things happen instantly, and so if there's any sort of mishap that happens, we can also know that almost instantly, and follow along with it live, right? It's like you were sitting there for 4 hours like trying to figure out what's going on here, trying to get all the information as soon as possible. I don't know, I find it very interesting.
Yeah, it's a huge stark contrast from Carrie. Do you remember when you were talking about Keaton's 5.09 and how you were searching through the forums for like timestamps?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, with the 5.09, like it was in the United States also, so I think like US social media was a lot more easy to access, I think, because like with Vietnam, I'm sure there's a lot of other like Vietnamese cubers who probably were talking about it somewhere, but I feel like we don't know many of the other people who were at the competition in terms of like what they post on social media, so that's why I felt like radio silence. But with Keaton Ellis's 5.09, I think there are other like trusted American cubers who are like just posting on American Facebook or something, or American
It's easier to access. Yeah,
I feel like Keaton's 5.09 is like, in a lot of ways, when you talked about it, Manu, as your favorite world record fail. I guess it's not a fail. It's a world record. It's the lost world record. It's the lost world record because not everyone even knows that it was a world record at the end of the day.
Right.
And I guarantee if that situation happened in this time and age, and let's say Keaton gets a 3.46 and then 2 hours later Maddie gets a 3.45, right? Keaton would be instantly
insane luck.
Instant notification, instant gratification. Everyone would know.
Everyone would know.
across the world.
The whole community would know.
So it's just a huge stark contrast to just a conversation that we were having a few weeks ago. It is kind of crazy how the timing for this happened for Overinspected. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. It's actually insane because like I'm not entirely sure when this episode is gonna come out, but for us, we recorded the Legendary WR episode last week. So and it's crazy that like we mentioned how like Yiheng is like he's so young. He might have been even younger than the incident that we were talking about, things like that.
Yeah.
And then the week after, he goes and just shows like some amazing cubing, right? But then, due to some unfortunate circumstances, just ends up a bit short. But I mean,
I think that's part of the benefit of like doing weekly episodes. It's like whenever there's some event in the cubing community, there will have been an episode that came out less than 7 days prior, and it just happened to be that like. It was a world record talk and it was a world record episode.
Yeah.
I don't think we would have mentioned Yiheng Wang if he hadn't gotten like already gotten a 4.9 average.
Yeah, which is interesting.
And
like,
his
3.9
is legit. And his 3.9 was legit no miss scrambles, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we can also talk about like Ray Hong's 3.86 is like contentious as well.
Oh, is it?
Because it's
I don't know.
It's also a miss scramble. Well, that one was like a miss scramble by 3 moves that actually did make the scramble easier to solve.
I don't know how public knowledge
like,
it is, but from my understanding, I think Carrie, do you have the same information that the miss scramble was the same scramble plus 3 moves added at the end?
Yeah, well, that's what I heard. I mean, I don't have any insider
That's very
info,
different.
But like.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna like advocate for whether or not Ray Hong's single should be like removed. But I guess like there is a slippery slope when it comes to like allowing or disallowing miss scrambles, because people are arguing with like Yiheng's scramble that like it didn't make the solution any faster or shorter because it just changed the AUF at the end of the solution. But then people were saying like, oh, it's kind of arbitrary though, because then you might argue like maybe a lefty J perm is slightly worse than a righty J perm. And
so
like, where do you draw the line?
So I heard that there was some discussion about whether the scramble is easier or not easier. I actually think it doesn't matter. Even if the scramble is harder, like the miss scramble that you got was harder than the one that you were intended to get. I think it is completely irrelevant as long as it was different. Because I think regardless of whether it's easier or harder, you got a cube state that you were not supposed to get. So it's a mistake in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter, I think, if it's easier or harder. I think, what are we gonna say? Like, if it were harder, then we would allow it? No, that doesn't make sense. Also, like, yeah, exactly. We get into like the finer points. Well, what is easier? What is harder? What if these solutions are, and like in this case, like they're exactly the same, but yeah, it's lefty versus righty J perm. Well, there's left-handed cuber, there's a right-handed cuber, easier, harder. Like, there's so many fine levels to go, and I think all that stuff is just completely unnecessary. Throw it all under one umbrella. Miss scrambles are miss scrambles, whether easier or harder. That's my opinion.
I guess like if the scramble doesn't match,
then it's an incorrect scramble. That scramble should. Legit. I mean, because that's the procedure, right? Do the scramble, check it with the picture that shows up from the WCA scrambler. And if it's the right one, awesome. If it's the wrong one, solve it and just redo.
Yeah, so I don't want to say this. I don't want to say this is a guarantee because I am at the end of the day not involved with the intimate conversations that are obviously going to be had about this, right? This is just from my perspective as a delegate with a little bit of experience in that field and having heard about other world records, obviously, and hearing thought pieces regarding it. Yeah, like you guys mentioned, Yiheng and his mom, they revealed that the miss scramble solution was actually applicable to the actual scramble, with the difference being an AU.
Yeah, which I find very interesting for
unbelievable
for FMC cube theory reasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that interests me because it was like a D prime instead of a D, so like it only affects.
And it was
the
on the
yellow sticker
first. It was the very
pieces.
first move.
But if you do white cross.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's why it only affects the white.
It's like doing
white
it's like
sticker
doing like a
pieces, or yellow
D2 pre
sticker
move, I
pieces.
guess.
It's so crazy.
Oh yeah, it's like doing a D2 pre move, but because Yiheng solves white cross,
Right,
that
yeah,
ends up being
it ends up being the
U2
AUF.
move.
That
But like during F2L, Yiheng is going to ignore all pieces that have yellow on it anyway, so that's why it doesn't affect any of F2L.
Which is really interesting.
I think.
So this is also why I think it like the easier harder thing doesn't make sense. Let's say he wanted to do red cross for whatever reason, right? Well, if he does red cross, then things are going to look different. So that's
Very
why
different.
like I think you can't
Yeah.
apply easier harder. It's just wrong.
that
so it's
is
just wrong.
actually that's a great way to definitely justify it from like the WRC perspective of just like why it's not as arbitrary as we think it is when we're selecting to keep a record versus not keeping it. That's very interesting. I don't have all that intimate FMC information, doing the pre-moves, applying to scrambles and all of that. But the fact that if you did a different cross color than white would have changed everything is insane to me.
Well, I won't say everything because I don't know the details, but it seems like it, like a priori,
I
I
think it
don't know
would.
how it couldn't change everything. Like it seems likely, very very likely to me that it would like significantly change the solution.
Well, it's sort of like doing a two corner swaps and then two edge swaps. So that's like 8 pieces.
Actually,
that
yeah,
are,
you're
like,
right. Yeah, that's
just
8
in
pieces
different
that are
locations on the
completely
cube.
different. And if you do, yeah, and so if you do like any of like the,
if you do like
red cross, then
Any
like
of the
6 of
other
those
colors-
pieces are going to be different.
like
Or sorry, 5 of those pieces will be different.
yeah, and if you did like yellow cross, then like all
Right,
8
then all
yellow
8 of them are
pieces
going to be
would be
different
solved
colors.
differently.
Insane.
So
Wow.
like it was a 1 in 6 chance that like the incorrect move at the beginning was the opposite of the cross color.
And
the
I think
solver
that
was
only
doing.
happens if the misscramble happens at the beginning. If it or the end. It could also happen at the end. If
Yeah.
it happens at any other point in the middle, I don't like a priori I can't think of like how that would manifest itself in the cube.
Well, if it happened in the middle, I mean, I don't know if any of this matters, but if it happens in the middle, it's sort of like you're just doing it on a scrambled cube, and then the pieces that are affected are sort of like a random mishmash of like whatever 8 happen to
I
be.
see what you're saying. Yeah. So all the
on
other pieces
that
should be in the right
side.
spots because it's doing 2 corner swaps and 2 edge swaps. So all the other pieces will be in the right space, but then there will be 8 pieces that are like in. It'll be like a 8 swap. Well, sort of. It'll be
Yeah.
2 4 swaps between them, right?
Yeah, 2 4 swaps. Oh, I guess that gets into the math, which is like not
This is not a
as
math
important
podcast,
because
dude.
like regardless of the math.
Guys.
Yeah, I think regardless of the math, it was a misscramble, and people are gonna have different opinions about like whether it's easier or harder. So as Manu said, like maybe
I think it's actually
ignore
fair.
all
I think it's
misscrambles.
fairer, right? Because okay, I'm gonna get on a slight tangent here. I think it's crazy that I can't. So I think there's something in team. I actually don't know how true this is. So maybe I'm totally off my rocker. And if I am, I'm counting on the comments to correct me. Please, you need to correct me because I don't want to spread misinformation on the internet. But I think that the way that the WCA scramble generation works is that it is guaranteed to give you at least 2 unoriented edges on every scramble that you do. I think that's the way it's supposed to work. And what's crazy to me is that the scrambler allows this, because isn't that explicitly like discriminating against ZZ solvers? Because you can still get 12 unoriented edges, but you can't get 0 unoriented edges, which I think is odd. I feel like if you allow 12, you should allow 0 as well.
Oh.
So I feel like this is. I actually the reason why I care is because I use ZZ, and I've never gotten 0. I've gotten 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 10.
Well-
Like I've gotten all of them except 0. But the thing is, I'm just one data point, right? But I heard that this is the case.
I actually hadn't
I heard
heard
that
of that.
I think I heard that this is the case somewhere. I know this is definitely a thing for FMC because the first 3 moves are like F prime R prime L prime, or F prime R prime U prime.
Like
So
R
that
prime, U
that
prime,
that
F
we
prime.
know for a fact. But I I thought that the way that the scrambler was supposed to work was that every state was supposed to be it's supposed to be random state. So it generates some random legal state of the cube, and then from there, and it checks to make sure that it's not like some minimum number of moves away. For 3x3, it's 4, I think. You can read about that. That's in the regulations. Checks to make sure that it's not some illegal number of moves away, and then just outputs that. And it does that uniformly randomly across all of those legal random states. But if it actually doesn't allow for unoriented edges, then that isn't all random. That's not uniform over all legal random states. So I don't know. This is like an ultra tangent. But if that's the case, then the WC Scrambler is discriminating against ZZ solvers, which I think is not fair.
Against ZZ solvers.
Imagine if this happened to Roux solvers.
I mean,
all I'm saying is that everyone would be up in arms.
Well, Roux solvers are discriminated because if they are off by an M slice, then it's a DNF.
Okay, that is true.
CFOP solvers are discriminated against because come up with something, guys. Come up with something so it's all equal in the end. Why are they discriminated against? Is it because they will never be the best CFOP solver because Max
okay,
Spark
sure.
exists?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
That's not discrimination.
I'm good with that.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's not like a regulation.
Yeah.
Well, there's a
anyway.
This is all for jokes, by the way. I think it really does not matter how many. And who cares if ZZ? Okay, maybe I didn't say that.
Okay, I was also gonna say that based on random chance, there's only a 1 in 2048 odds of having 0 bad edges.
That is true, and that's kind of
low already.
I also have not done 2000 solves with ZZ official. So.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
Official, that makes sense.
Yeah. I only mean official because
I
don't want to say anything for CS timer. I only care about official. Who cares if CS timer discriminates against ZZ or CFOP or Petrus or what? That stuff doesn't matter, right? That's all unofficial.
It's
anyway.
just a practice. Yeah.
Use a better timer if you're getting discriminated against.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can't use a different WCA, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so the thing about this conversation, which is really, really interesting that you guys brought that perspective to the table, because one of the newest storylines to this whole thing is should Yiheng get to keep it? I mean, clearly Yiheng and his mom were emphatic that they wanted to keep the original result, right? And people bring up precedent with the WCA being inconsistent. When do we allow a misscrambled world record? And when do we allow a properly scrambled world? Well, obviously you always allow a properly scrambled world record, but when do you allow these misscrambles, right? And I was trying to think back, and if you guys know in the comments of all the world records in the past that have been allowed even with a verified misscramble, that's not 6, 7, or mega. That's not 6, 7, or mega.
Those don't count. I actually don't know how world records verification for that works. I don't know if you just look at it and use just it looks sufficiently scrambled.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I feel with 6, 7, and mega, it's just no matter how it looks, it's fine, because so much changes over the course of the solve that whatever happens by last layer is essentially
interesting.
purely
So
random.
I thought the reason was because so it goes back to the random state versus random move thing. So to explain, so random state is what I said earlier. You scramble up the puzzle. You scramble up the puzzle, but not by move. You take you blow the puzzle apart and put it back together, and putting the pieces in random, but you have to make sure that you put the pieces back together so it's solvable, right? And then you find the solution to that and then invert it, or you do some sort of process like that. So that's random state. So if you do that, then that basically assures you that every state of the puzzle is equally likely to get chosen from. But there's another set of scrambles that the WCA does, which is random move. 6x6, 7x7, and Megaminx use random move generators. Mm-hmm. And the way that those work is that they have a preset length, and they randomly generate a move for each of those slots, and then they just give it to you. The problem with using and you might ask like why aren't these the same? I think there's a lot of math that goes on here, but all you need to know is that like if you use random move, you will there are some states that are more likely to get to. So then it's not the same as random. It's like saying that like it's like rolling 2 dice, and you know the probability they get 2 3s is higher than the probability you get 2 2s. Like it's just not equal. And I thought the reason why the WCA used random move was because solvers for 6x6 Megaminx and 7x7 are so complex that it would be like the solution would be really really long, and applying all of those would be very difficult for the scramblers to do. And I think there was some mathematical thing that was done to show that the variation of states that happen with random move is not significantly different from random state. So like someone like did a lot of math, and then they determined like, yeah, this is just easier for scramblers to do, and it's easier for us to put into code. So let's just do this for these because it's not significantly different. That's what I thought.
That's essentially it. Because like if you misscrambled, you more likely applied the same number of moves too.
Yes, that's true.
Oh yeah. I think that's all right. Like not all right, but all correct. Like, because I was thinking that like a very rudimentary way of finding a solution, like let's say you do random state, you could just do like a ton of commutators to give a like scramble that gets you that state. But of course that's going to be very long. And like I guess for the sake of competition, you want the scrambles to be like short enough that scramblers can keep up with the pace.
Yeah, exactly. Because we can't have scramblers falling behind. But I think that's something we'll touch on later.
Yeah. One of the things was about whether or not we should accept these and thinking about precedent with the WCA, right? So when we think about precedent with the WCA, people are saying that there is reason to keep this because the solution is similar enough. It wouldn't have affected his time at all in that situation, which is in a sense in that situation is true.
I mean, it's true.
However, they also use the argument that they've allowed it in the past. And I want you guys to put in the comments of which world records you can think of, but the only world record I can think of is Felix's OH 6.88 single.
Yeah, this is a famous infamous world record because this was actually counted as a world record, right?
Yeah, but that was way back in the day. And at the end of the day, here's what Cubers want. And Cubers, I want you to call me out if this is incorrect. Cubers want consistency. They don't want the WCA to look like they're accepting one result and not accepting another. And if you look at it from the broad scope of things, yeah, of course. Like way back in 2013, we allowed something, right? But this is 2023. What does that mean? The WCA has already made a firm stance, in my opinion, on making sure that if there is a misscramble, that the result is retroactively DNF'd. And I've had to do that for multiple competitions. I'm sure there are many delegates that have had to do that retroactively after a report of a misscramble. In fact, competitors upload their solves all the time on YouTube, and that's a common way for them to figure out like, oh shoot, I got a misscramble, right? And this is all stuff that is not reported to everyone. This is all stuff for people's personal use. No one has any idea it's happening, but the internal WCA teams all know this because of all the reports and all the information that has to be spread internally. So you guys don't know this, but all the misscrambles that are actually reported retroactively to the WCA are normally DNF'd. But no one really knows about Joe Schmo getting his 11 single DNF'd, right? So from the outsider's perspective, the WCA looks like they're choosing, right? But from the insider perspective, the WCA made a hard stance at one point. They're like, we're going to DNF every misscramble we see, pretty much, or give out extras because this is not okay. Now, the reason why there are some competitors, and in fact, there was a competitor in my Twitch chat who was complaining about this. The reason why there are competitors who even have misscrambles uploaded as official results recently is because their delegate probably didn't do the due diligence to make the right call or discuss with WRC or even snitch on themselves to WRC in the delegate report, right? So they just decided to ignore it. And that's why the misscramble was allowed. And the competitor is just left to just have a misscramble. At the end of the day. So what I want to make very clear to everyone listening is the WCA, from my understanding, in my opinion, they are definitely not going to bring back that solve to make it a retroactive world record. And they were never going to. Like, that was something that was addressed a few years ago, and the WCA has been very consistent about their approach to misscrambles.
Yeah, I think another thing to note.
Okay, I didn't actually know
what's
that.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just said
I didn't know that either.
So good.
there we go.
I had to, in Western Championships very recently, I had to DNF 2 competitors misscrambles.
Yeah,
That was 2 months later. Like, I got an email
really?
2 months later. Yeah. Why the heck am I supposed to deal with that email? Tell me, as a freaking human being, do I need to see this? No, I'm kidding.
Okay,
Look, I get it.
whoa, calm down.
No, I'm kidding. But I'm just saying it's very real.
Yeah, and the thing is, these are competitors that's like, oh, I got the misscramble, right? And then they tell you. Or you know, they upload it to YouTube, they notice later, they talk to a friend, they look at the scrambles. How many competitors are out there who it's their first time competing, they have no idea what's going on, they go compete, they get their 5 sols, they're happy, they just competed at their first competition. That's nothing to scoff at. And you know, they had a good time, they went home. They don't know that, you know, I want to take a video of this. They don't know what goes on in the background. They don't know that there are like big misscramble incidents that happen all the time. They just think everything is hunky dory. They're on their way. They show off to their friends, hey, look, like I competed officially or whatever, right? But what if one of those is a misscramble? We have no idea. So like, we're not gonna know until it gets until like it's pointed out, because there's nothing that we can do unless someone notices that there's a problem, right? Or something notices that there's a problem. Maybe this is an argument that there should be more tech in cubing to, you know, try and eliminate misscrambles, GAN robots, scramble checkers at the table. That's a whole other conversation. But it's interesting that people, like, we only know the misscrambles that show up. It's like that one, it's survivor bias, right? Like, it was fun. Like, the whole, like, story is that I think after World War II, or during World War II, the British aircraft that returned home had a bunch of bullets in very particular places, right? You know, they had bullets in like wings or whatever. They studied the patterns of where the planes took hits, and then they were like, oh, well, the planes took hits in these places. We better patch them up so they're safer. Maybe we'll lose less planes. The problem is they were only looking at the planes that came back, the planes that didn't get shot down. So that's the thing, right? The ones that went unreported, they never got those back. It's the same thing. You know, there's no way to know how many misscrambles are happening at any given time.
Oh, wasn't there like a huge controversy about? It's not cubing related, but in terms of unreported instances, wasn't that a huge situation for COVID-19?
Yes.
With many states and many countries not reporting, underreporting, or all reporting.
So
right? And that made a huge variance.
So that's what I was gonna say. Like, in the day of where, you know, you could, well, at least in the States, I can go to the pharmacy and get a rapid test kit. I test positive for COVID, I'm staying at home. I don't have to go get like a rapid PCR test at some centralized facility. I can just stay at home. I'll test every day for 2 weeks. I come out negative. No one knows the better. Maybe my employer knows because I didn't go into the office, but they're not going to forward that information out. And in theory, no one has to. So that's why, like, in the modern part of COVID, at least, like recently when test kits have started to become more available, the number of underreported incidents have also just completely blown up. We have to use anecdotes now in order to, oh, my friend got COVID. Oh, my other friend got COVID too. Maybe it's spreading.
Well, I heard that the way that like epidemiologists are tracking the spread of COVID is through wastewater, because like as you said, now that people can test for COVID at home, like there's no need to tell authorities, but like nobody can not use the bathroom. So when cases spike and no one mentions it, you can see it in the wastewater. And I think what that tells you is that like sometimes the way to catch things is like, you know, you can't do it
it's
just
a
by
study like a
people.
related problem.
Yeah. Like finding proxy.
You're right.
Wow, that is so interesting. how all that ties into these into this situation. I love that look,
Well,
Joe Schmo, maybe he got a miscramble. Who knows?
Maybe he got COVID. Who knows?
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm trying to think, like, there must be some analogy with cubing, because, like, the wastewater at a cubing venue, like, people aren't going to, I don't know.
People...
I shouldn't say like, what they produce in their wastewater is not going to be different because they got a miscramble, so it's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay. My hunch is that, like, 90% of miscrambles from Joe Schmo.
Okay, you're willing to put
caught,
like a somewhat number on it. Yeah.
Like a high number, because, like, most people aren't even recording.
Dude, I have no idea if I
I
haven't recorded a solve in years. I have no clue if I got a miscramble or not. Like, I'll be honest.
Yeah. And, like, if they're miscrambling on the third fastest cuber in the world, then, like, when they see that, like, Carrie Huang, who has, like, an 11 average, is about to compete, it's like they're gonna spend even less time double checking the scramble. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if I got several miscrambles, but we'll never know.
Yeah. I did want to share that I think miscrambles in general, it probably won't fit in this episode for this podcast. I think this podcast is probably we're going to be reaching the end pretty soon for this episode, but I did want to mention that, like you said, Carrie, matching those pictures on the scramble, sometimes it's really easy to identify a miscramble. Sometimes if you're really speedrunning, if you're a newcomer, I'll put it all
if you're
out
a
there.
veteran,
if you're a delegate, if you're a veteran, if you're a seasoned competitor, if you saw some of the scramble patterns that existed, you'll see, like, oh, I see a lightning shape. Oh, I see the L pattern on this face. Oh, I even see the line on the other face. It must be correct. No, check all 6 sides, right? Check all 6 sides. You're bound to see something. Check the corners. But it is interesting because Yiheng's miscramble, because it was only off by 1 move, was obviously it was extremely similar on all the sides. So honestly, Carrie, in my perspective, like, they sent out thinking it was, they definitely thought they scrambled it right.
Yeah. Like,
they were like, this is 100%er.
Yeah. I could see that. I could see that mistake happening.
Yeah, I could see that because like, when I'm checking scrambles, I am looking for, like, the lightning shape or the L, and then, like, when I see, like, 1 or 2 of those patterns, I'm like, it's good enough. But, you know, that doesn't cover cases like you just said where the miscramble is very similar looking.
Yeah. And there's a lot to be talked about this subject. Latte is yawning, so I think we should probably wrap up soon. But one thing that I want to mention is, like, this miscramble incident happened, and now miscrambles are back on everyone's mind, right? And now everyone is thinking, oh, how do we deal with miscrambles? Oh, we punish the competitor. We punish them or whatever, right? Okay, fine. Let's say we do that, right? How long should we be spending on checking for miscrambles at the scrambling station? Do we check every solve for a minute? Like, we put a little, it's like a toothbrush timer, right? We put a minute on, right? You check. Okay, well, it looks fine. Oh, but the timer didn't go off. Okay, so I have to continue checking. Okay, well, I'm still checking. Okay, maybe it's fine, right? Well, what if you still missed it? It's not insane that, like, you still missed it. It's still possible to miss it. Okay, fine. Are we gonna make it 2 minutes now? Anyway, just something to think about. I don't think we have time for it, but I think a lot of people want to have solutions for miscrambles, and, you know, I don't want miscrambles. Look, I would have wanted Yiheng to get his world record like he deserved, like he basically almost did, right? But the way that needs to happen is, I think, very complicated.
Yeah, and we don't have the answer, but, you know, at the end of the day, this is the situation. The ruling is that it's not a world record. And you know what? Anyone who gets a world record worth their salt, like, they've gone through trials and tribulations. True. And, you know, I'm sure Yiheng is probably going to, you know, go what he's going after. He's a incredible cuber.
Oh, yeah,
right? Yeah. Like, and at the end of the day, if he never breaks the world record again, like, if we think about it, you know, like, was it meant to be, right? Everyone has gone through trials and tribulations. Felix, we just talked about it, right? Max went through trials and tribulations. He didn't even win Worlds in 2019. That was extremely close where he was a favorite, right?
Yeah.
it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, look. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I was just gonna say that like since he's only 8 years old or 9, or it's like I feel like he's gonna have so many more opportunities to break the world record that like I'm not saying that like it's okay that this one was disqualified because it's not, but like I hope he realizes that like he has many more shots, and like the story is not over.
Yeah, dude.
For
Like
Yiheng
this
Wang.
this kid is on this 8-year-old kid was on WR Watch for 2 weeks back to back, right? I don't know if he's competing next week, but wherever he goes, like he's always gonna be on WR Watch, which I think is awesome. And the more he competes, the more opportunities he has to break the world record. And look, at the end of the day, like regardless of what happens, he's still gonna go down in history as like an absolute legend for doing what he's able, like for showing the world what he's able to do at such a young age. And like his skill is not gonna be overlooked anytime soon, regardless of if he gets a world record, regardless of what happened in this incident. So.
I think we should cap off this episode by reminding ourselves that sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most nurturing, flourishing beginnings.
What doesn't kill you
And I
make you
think that'll
stronger.
be-
You
yeah.
could have just we can quote Kelly Clarkson. Like she's not gonna copyright us for saying that.
No, I'm not gonna quote Kelly Clarkson.
Wait, is that? Wait, is there a Kelly Clarkson quote that's like
this
similar?
is the only song I know of Kelly Clarkson. Is like what doesn't kill you make you. What I think it's called. The song is
No,
called
no.
Stronger.
Oh, what doesn't
but,
kill you
like,
makes you
it's-
stronger.
No.
What doesn't kill you?
The
makes you-
quote is, man, you said it. I was gonna say a similar quote.
Oh,
What doesn't defeat you makes you even more powerful.
that was awful. That was awful.
Wow, that's completely
That was-
original.
That has like
I've never
we
heard that
discussed
before.
this I think in some episode in season 1, but that's like it's like the ABC of like Confucian wisdom or whatever, like that stupid format that we came up with, right?
Look, it's the ABCs of the DEFs,
We need to end the podcast. I'm done.
I don't know what that means.
All right, guys. It's been
Okay.
a wonderful podcast. Of course, this podcast is a little bit different, bringing you the cubing news, bringing you the insight, the perspectives, the information, and we hope you take that back with you as we're continuing to be on Yiheng World Record Watch for the next week. I believe he competes in Hong Kong. I'm not exactly
Wow.
sure, but
Best
the
of luck
kid's
to
gonna
him.
have
Oh, really?
many years, Yiheng. Good luck on your next competition. Good luck to all the top players in the World Cube
Hey, good dude.
Association.
Hey, good luck to Joe Schmo. I hope you have a great competition at the next competition you go to.
Good
Hopefully
Joe
this week. We'll see you this
Schmo.
week.
All right, Joe Schmo. We will see you at the next competition.
Bye, Joe Schmo.
Bye, Joe Schmo.
Get a different name.
We'll miss you, Joe Schmo.
Joe
Bye.
Schmo.